a non-spoiler review of this part of the video of the DaVinci Code, A Quest for Answers by Josh McDowell. I am your host, Leon, and this is the Reading Writing Corner. If you're new here, pull up a seat, sit down, and let us talk about this book. This very thin book that I DNF'd. And we'll explain why I did that in the spoiler part of the review if you really want to know. But for now, let's jump right into it. If you've been here before, you know the drill, you know how things go. We'll make this short and brief, I hope, because it's not a lot going on for it. So, this is a standalone. There you go, that's a standalone. Now about the book. Just where does fact and fiction begin? That's basically the book, okay? What made me read this book? Or attempt to read it? I thought it was going to be a book delving deep into the fact and fiction of the book, The DaVinci Code by Dan Brown, separating the facts and the fictions that was used, because obviously as a writer who writes fiction, you're going to have a lot of fictional stuff in it, including stuff that might be religious in itself, because if you're going to be someone who does something like that, obviously what you're going to write about is not going to be truthful, because, well, for one, we don't know a lot about the past that includes Mary Magdalene and Jesus, and all that stuff, because there's not a lot of history or records that actually give us a good and fair amount of details and information besides what we've already found, and it's very difficult to find out any information from thousands of years ago. So there we go. The blurb is, I got two different blurbs, so we're gonna read one blurb and then we're gonna read another blurb. Just where does fact and fiction begin? The brilliant mix of fact and fiction in Dan Brown's conspiracy story, The DaVinci Code, raises serious questions regarding the origins and claims of Christianity. Many come away from the book shaken in their beliefs, wondering what is true. Questions like, was Mary Magdalene really Jesus' wife and the mother of his child? Did the church express the truth and fabricate Jesus' claim to divinity? Is the Bible as we have it really accurate and authentic? Did Jesus really come back from the dead? In The DaVinci Code, A Quest for Answers, best-selling author Josh McDowell addresses these and other questions raised by Brown's book. Drawing on the mountain of historical evidence, McDowell successfully separates fact from fallacy and presents unassailable truths that readers can depend on to be rock solid. Okay, that's both blurbs put together. Okay. My blurb: 3 college students and I got to see the movie The DaVinci Code, and then decided to read the book in order to discern fact from fiction within it. 2 different kinds of blurbs, right? Not the same. It did not have a lot of setup of characters because it was a quick page and a half of setup. Their motives were set out from the onset. What was fact and fiction within the movie? In the book, The DaVinci Code, they wanted to know for the religious aspects of it. Was this religiously true or was this not? What was set in the book? Was this true? Was this not? Did these people exist? Did they not? What were they really doing? Were they really this way? Basically, that's all it was. There was no reaction to any situation because they were just reading a book and discussing what was fact within it and what was false. You know, the truth and the fiction. This is considered to be a religious academic book, but I wouldn't think it's really academic in the sense that it's written like a story, like a novel, fiction, like a fiction novel. Did this live up to my expectations? No. It did not. It did not live up to my expectations. All my expectations was that it was just going to be a factual book. A factual book that would tell me the truth from the fiction of Dan Brown's The DaVinci Code. It's a story. It's a story. Okay? Chris held the door and waited for his friends, Matt and Andre. The crowd of moviegoers filed through the door, and Chris started to wonder if he somehow missed them. And they're like, so there's a lot more detail in the conspiracy stuff, and I think it's amazing to see. And then she reads something. You know, and then they're like, she reads about, like, she reads out in a thing, the Vatican prelature known as Opus Dei is a deeply devout Catholic sect that has been the topic of recent controversies due to reports of brainwashing. Okay? And the dude's like, it is a real organization within the Catholic Church, and people have accused the group of being heavy-handed in their practices or cities. As far as I can tell, it's just a very conservative group that attracts highly devoted people. So, that's how it's presented to you. I did some research. Here's what I found of the research of what was going on in the book versus the truth. And the little thing he says is that the character is a result of poetic license. Every thriller needs a villain, and Alabama Monk from a shadow organization is as good as any. So that's why it did not live up to my expectations. It was not what it presented itself to be. So what was more important there, the characters or plot? The plot! Because it was all about figuring out whether the information within the book, the DaVinci Code by Dan Brown, was true or not. It was a third-person point of view, and it did not affect my reading at all, because it was just a bunch of college students sitting together and reading a book and discussing it. So, should you go and read the story? If you want a book written like a college student discussion on fact or fiction, you go ahead and read it. It was not for me. I DNF'd it. I didn't even get past I didn't get past chapter 2, to be honest. Because I was just like, what? Yeah, what? So if you don't want to stick around for the spoiler part of the review, drop me a comment, like, or even your lovely subscription. Other than that, I'm going to hop right into the spoiler section of the review. Okay, so the main characters in this book are three. You have Chris, you have Andre, and Matt. They're all college students. Andre is the girlfriend of Matt, and they're both friends with Chris. There is only one POV, and it is the third person, of course. If I didn't say that before, it did not affect my reading. Okay, I don't know, but I believe that this was told in chronological with appropriate language. It does not have foreshadowing or suspense, because obviously I've seen the movie, and the Dan Brown's the DaVinci Code is on my list of books to read, so yes, that's there. The background of the three characters was quick. It was only to set up for the rest of it, which is basically them having discussions, because they're like, oh, let's meet up and discuss this, and let's meet up and discuss this. Where, like, each one is like a different. When was the Bible collated? How many Gospels were written? And, those are good questions, right? They're good questions. What does the other Gospel say? And they're just like, here, this is what I found. Oh, what's this about? Many scholars view the Gospel of Thomas as a gospel. Gnosticism was a school of thought, actually more than one school of thought, that sought salvation through secret knowledge. That may be why so much of the Gospel of Thomas seems cryptic. Do you think it reinforces what TB says in the DaVinci Code? And then someone's like, I'm not sure. If I remember right, didn't Teabing or Langdon say that the secret agenda of the church was to devalue women and exalt men? So that's basically what it is. It's just basically a discussion back and forth between fact and fiction and what they were trying to figure out within the book. So what I thought about the ending of the book, I did not like it because I didn't read the ending, so I can't tell you what actually happened. But I can tell you that I can read it right now for you. Okay? So, basically, a departing word. Even right now, you can pray to Christ and receive Him through faith. The words of the following prayer are not magical, but simply a suggestion to express a sincere desire to turn from self and turn to God. If you prayed the above prayer with a genuine desire to receive Christ, thank God that often Christ is in your life, that He will never leave you, and that He has called you to embark upon an exciting life journey with Him. The true answer to your quest. So, basically that's that. The ending, the last book is really, the last chapter is actually Dan Brown's novel, The DaVinci Code, depicts a fictional quest from a fictional characters for a fictional Holy Grail. Yes, that's all it is. Although the characters in this book, Chris, Matt, and Andrea, are also fiction characters, the details of their discussions are factual, and the hundreds of cited references in their conversations provide not only the factual underpinnings, but also the opportunity for you to further investigate their claims and discoveries. And along with them, our common quest isn't about people who lived 2,000 years ago, or even about a code created by a Renaissance genius. It's about much bigger things than that. It's about who God is, who Jesus is, who we are, and whether or not the things God says about love and forgiveness and salvation are actually real. So you really want to get their discussions in everything God says about who He is and who we are, who you are, and what He's going to do, what He has already done for you. But that is the answer. God loves you. He's willing to forgive you. That's basically it. So yeah, it was not what I thought it was supposed to be. The blurb on the back does not mention that it was written as if it was a short story with fictional characters discussing fact or fiction. I thought it was actually going to be fact or fiction. You know, factual. This is what's actually true versus what was happening in the book. That's what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't. Not at all. So there's no book that this reminds me of, but I guess you could say it's a little like the A Night to Remember by Walter Lord, because that was also what I thought was going to be more about factual information than it was about fictional things. I mean, not fictional things, but factual information laid out instead of like a collection of stories of what happened with the survivors. Yeah, so there's that. This book, as you know, is a standalone, and I rated it a 1. Because it's not what it presents itself as on the front cover or the back cover. If you are not purchasing this online, where it can tell you if it is faction type story to separate fact from fiction, reading as a discussion between 3 fictional people, then you're not going to know that. Not by looking at the cover, and you're not going to know it by reading the back. It does not actually say, hey, this is a discussion between 3 fictional characters about what's fact and fiction. It doesn't say that anywhere here, on the front or the back of this. So this will deceive you. So be prepared for that. And that's why I couldn't do it. I couldn't get into it because it was deceiving me. And I was going into it with certain expectations, and it just let me down. So if you think I deserve a like, comment, or even your lovely subscription, drop it down below. I will see you next illusion.